There is a place that is spoken about only in whispers, a dark area that spawns the beginnings of urban legends, a place where anything can happen and usually does. During the light of day, it hides just outside of view, but when the sun goes down, spirits, creatures of the night, roam free, and things do go bump in the night. It is in every state and every country, and there is no escaping it, no matter how safe you feel behind your locked doors and latched windows. So we invite you to turn down the lights and turn up your radio while we join Dave Schrader and Tim Dennis, your hosts, on a journey into the darkness on the edge of town.
Hello and welcome. You're tuned into the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Beyond the Darkness. I'm your host, Dave Schrader, and back. Well, kind of back, at least. He's 3/4 of the way back. Mr. Tim Dennis. Are you feeling better, Tim?
I am a little unsteady, but I'm good. You know the whole gallbladder thing. You know how you feel afterwards.
Yes. Yeah, that was gunky. That was a junky thing. But man, when I had my gallbladder issue, I thought I was literally having a heart attack. You just felt sick.
Oh God!
Not that I'm downplaying. Like mine was so much more dramatic, Tim.
To say just sick is a little understated.
No, I understand, but I mean, like you felt. I didn't feel flu-like symptoms. You felt like you were in the throes of like norovirus or the flu.
Yeah,
which is weird because mine literally, I had such pain and radiating pain all over. I thought it was a heart attack. It's weird how our, two different people, same issue, two totally different, kind of ways our bodies respond to it.
I thought somebody was ripping my stomach out at first. And I thought, because I, like you said, I thought it was norovirus or food poisoning. And man, not to get gross about it, but I vomited like over 30 times in 24 hours. It was.
Well, hey, look at it this way. It's good ab building.
It was. I have a 12-pack now. It's
really
amazing. Yeah.
I don't see these kids drive me crazy with their abs. I mean, sure, they've got 12 little abs. I've just got one really big ab.
Yeah.
That's the way I like to look at it.
That's all you need. Yeah.
One big solid ab that hangs over my belt.
That's right.
I said that to my daughter. She goes, Dad, that's not ab, that's flab.
Oh, come on.
Brutal, but true.
That's horrible.
Brutal, but true. Well, it's a Supernatural News Monday and ParaShare Monday, so we'll share some of your stories in a bit. We've got some supernatural news. And yes, Mr. Dennis was sitting in his hospital bed, fixing the shows, editing, tipping and tailing the shows for last week. So I'm sorry you didn't get your Monday, Wednesday, Friday show. Instead, you got a Monday, Thursday, Friday show. Mm-hmm. But hopefully you guys can give us a little leeway on that since Tim was incapacitated, near death at one point. So he still worked and did what he could to get the shows up and running for us. So Tim, thank you again for your hard work even while on your deathbed.
You're welcome. And on Wednesday, it's not exactly like an emergency. They stop all procedures to let me edit. They just wouldn't let me do it.
Rude of them.
Yeah.
Don't they know who we think we are?
I know. Yeah.
We're kind of a big deal. But all right, let's get started in the world of supernatural news. Where will we begin this week's journey?
We're going to the UK, Dave, where croissants and tea are a thing.
I think they're a thing here.
Oh,
too. They do exist in the United States. They're just not. That's for them fancy eating folks.
Oh,
I'm more of a McMuffin guy, where you're kind of a croissant fella, right?
Oh, I love me some croissants. I'm not.
As we like to say in France, croissant.
Croissant.
I think that's. I would like a croissant. Or as Bill Curtis would say, I would like a croissant, bitches. All right.
If you're not tuning in to True Crime Tuesday, by the way, folks, you're missing out on the Bill Curtis Express.
Oh, that was weird. It's funny how you get the responses right now. Now nobody's asking for Snallygaster. I'm getting emails upon emails for Bill Curtis. Maybe we should have Bill Curtis interview the Snallygaster for Beyond the Darkness someday.
See, that's good listening right there.
That's radio gold. All right.
That's stuff that you got to pay like $29.95 on PBS for.
Yeah, we should do that.
Just telling you.
Yes.
There is proof of the afterlife, ? in the UK. Yeah. A ghost has been filmed flinging a phone, at least it's just a phone, in the UK's most haunted pub. CCTV in Britain's most haunted pub has captured what paranormal investigators claim is a ghost flinging a telephone off its hook. The recording is in the Jamaica Inn in Cornwall, and it shows from a number of angles the landline receiver. Oh, that's so quaint. A landline receiver suddenly flying off the pub's telephone. Video footage starts with a barmaid called April. Oh, that's quaint too. Filmed cleaning up after closing time. Then when she washes some beer trays, that's quaint as well. I don't know very many pubs that do that anymore. A wall phone behind her falls off its stand, leaving her apparently scared. Paranormal investigators who viewed the footage have able to come up with no rational explanation for the spooky incident. The historic Smuggler's Inn, or Bodmin Moor, rose to fame from being the setting of Daphne du Maurier's 1936 novel of the same name, and it is said to be one of the most haunted inns in the country. Investigators have been studying the location ever since the happening on October 23rd and have now released the footage, that according to dailystar.co.uk. Colin Simons from the Jamaica Inn Ghost Hunting Investigation Group said, "We've had a poltergeist at Jamaica Inn. It picked up and dropped the wall phone in one room and no one was there. We caught it on HD camera. The CCTV is crystal clear." April has stated that 10 minutes before the incident, a colleague had texted her mobile, which was on the worktop by the bar phone, to ask if there was any customers left in the bar. April had confirmed she was alone, and on the footage, you see her look up from cleaning the drip trays as she thought she had heard the entrance door to the bar open. Then the phone receiver drops and she gives a nervous laugh, as there have been multiple strange things happen to her and staff when working in that area, especially when locking up. April then texted Ben, the night manager, asking him to check the CCTV. Mr. Simons said several other people had investigated the incident, including an electrician who said there was no way the phone could have fallen by itself. Jamaica Inn is reportedly so haunted it allows ghost hunters and members of the public to carry out weekend and late-night ghost investigations or stayovers. The pub website says for years there have been stories of happenings at the inn. Many people who have stayed here reported strange incidents occurring at night. The areas of substantial interest to the investigation were the Smuggler's Bar, the Stable Bar, now the museum, upstairs in the old bedrooms, and the rear restaurant and gift shop area. Previous managers of the Jamaica Inn have heard conversations uttered in a foreign tongue. Some have suggested that this foreign language could, in fact, be Old Cornish. Oh, I love their game hens, Dave. Have you ever had them? They're kind of like little chicken appetizers.
I used to love, that was like my delicacy growing up, when mom and dad would be like, "What do you want for dinner? You can choose whatever you want tonight." I'd say I want a Cornish game hen. And I'd get those little rock Cornish game hens.
Oh, yeah.
And they took it out. It was like a little turkey for me. It was like, I like feeling like a giant. I got to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So when I can have like a little chicken that, and I feel like, oh, look at me, I'm a giant. Well, this is maybe too much insight into my weird world, but it's true. You think I'm kidding, and the listeners think I'm nuts. But I used to, my kids would just be like, "What the hell is wrong with my dad?" I'd go in and I'd grab a baby spoon by accident because it would have made its way into the regular spoons. Yeah. And I'd grab the spoon and I'd walk out and I'd go, "Oh no, everyone be careful, I've turned into a giant." And I'd start stomping around all crazy, and my kids would just look at me like, please tell us we're adopted, please.
So to you, Andre the Giant really was some sort of hero.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Monstrous. Did you see? I know you love that wrestling stuff.
Oh, yes, I do.
They've got a documentary coming out on HBO.
April 10th, yeah. Yeah.
He put it that scene where he puts his hand over Mean Gene Okerlund's face.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It's like me palming an orange.
Yep.
His entire hand covered the entire head of another man.
There are some.
That's crazy.
You're going to find out in that documentary too about some legendary drinking stories about Andre, and he could put it down. Well,
I would think so. He's 92 feet tall and weighed 42.7 tons. I don't know if you knew this, but it's all legit. I've read it online.
It might be a little exaggeration on the weight
not
and
at
height.
All. I read it on the internet, Tim.
But a lot of it was because he was in so much pain.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
I know we used to have one of our coworker I worked with used to be a bartender in a bar where Andre would come in.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and she said he would grab one of those gallon jugs of wine, and that was his drink at the meal. She said he was the sweetest guy in the world while he was sober.
Yep.
So he was very lovey and affectionate when he was getting drunk, but you didn't want to cross a line with him, that's for sure.
I've heard many stories from doing Extreme Pro Wrestling Radio from different wrestlers about how they would get on a bus with Andre, and even if it was just a 1-hour trip, they had to have a couple of cases of wine to get him just an hour and a half or an hour on a bus.
Good grief.
Yeah.
I know. What does it have to do with the paranormal? It's about giants.
It's about
folks.
giants.
Giants.
Yeah. Giants. Right.
All right. I'm sorry. So go ahead.
Okay.
Back to your story.
Back to the story. On a moonlit night when all is still, the sound of horses' hooves and the metal rims of wheels turning on the rough cobbles can be heard in the courtyard, according to it's a theater of the mind.
Sound effect action.
No, that's okay. I like it. It's not. I'm not used to being on this end.
You're usually in the rear of the story.
You know what?
So like, what? All right.
I don't normally like it in the rear, but thank you for trying. Yet there is nothing to be seen, is what they say when they hear all that. Who can explain the uneasy footsteps heard pacing the corridors in the dead of night? Well, who is the strange man in a tricorn hat? I'll try anything once, I guess. And cloak, who appears and then walks through solid doors? That's the big question mark. And then they just kind of leave the story there, Dave.
Story kind of peters out.
Yeah.
But the fact is, it's like one of the most haunted pubs, allegedly, although every pub in Europe is haunted. And they'll tell you we're among the most haunted of all the pubs in the world. But we don't believe in ghosts here, but stay away from our wee people.
They have people peeing on the sidewalk there?
No. We people mean small. But okay, this story brings about a point I'd like to make on the show, Tim. Sure. This is a public service announcement brought to you by Beyond the Darkness. When you send evidence in to us or ask us to review evidence, I have to ask our listeners to do this. Either A, don't ever send me your evidence. Don't ever send it to me if you don't want my actual thoughts on it.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
Right.
Just recently, a lady sent me videos over on Facebook, and I didn't answer right away on it because I hate those kind of videos. I hate looking at something that's one piece of a puzzle that's flipped upside down. I don't know enough about the rest to weigh in on it. But basically, this paranormal team had multiple cameras set up, and or it was CCTV in a restaurant or something like that. Anyway, in the back room, you see this like shelving unit, and there's a fan sitting on the shelf, and all of a sudden the fan moves forward just like an inch, and all of a sudden everything on the shelf behind it falls. And they're like, "Oh, it's a ghost." And then they asked me, "What do you think?" And I said, "Well, it's really it's kind of inconclusive." And they're like, "Well, obviously, but what are your thoughts?" And I said, "Well, my thoughts are that the stuff stacked up behind the fan was heavy and top heavy, leaning against part of the fan, and eventually the fan just moved an inch because of the weight. And once it moved, it gave way to the rest of that stuff, and everything fell."
Yeah.
And this lady got very irritated that was my answer.
Ooh.
And then, well, what if we told you that's not the way it was? I said, well, that's great. You have more information. You didn't tell me the whole story. You said, here's a video. Can you please give me your insight? Now, you can also tell me that that's not how it's set up, but I'm looking at the video. And in this video, I've seen things do this before that are just poorly stacked on a shelf, and something in front of it is holding it there until it shifts, and then everything comes tumbling down. And it's one of those oscillating fans.
Oh, yeah.
So you know that it turns.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So this lady just is very irritated and offended with me, and then it's like, oh, so what? All this kind of evidence is... Again, if you're going to give me one piece of an upside-down puzzle without telling me what the picture is and ask me to analyze it, I will tell you what I see in that one piece of puzzle. That's all I can do. So if you're just going to get offended if I don't agree with your story, then don't bother sending me your video, your EVP, or your photographs. I don't want to see them. I don't want to have to weigh in on them because I get so tired of it. I love looking at evidence. You know that. You and I both love it. But if you give me something and then I give you a possible answer for what caused it and it doesn't line up with your answer, it doesn't make me wrong or an ass. I'm telling you my perspective, which is why you reached out to me to begin with. You wanted a fresh set of eyes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I gave you a fresh set of eyes. You don't have to like the answer, but then don't be rude to me about it if you don't. That's just the way of the game. So all I'm doing is send in your evidence to us, Dave at darknessradio.com, Tim at darknessradio.com. We'll be happy to look at it. We'll be happy to weigh in on it from time to time. But again, you just have to keep things in perspective, folks. If we don't see something, we don't see something. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
So we got that. Then I also want to make up a mention. A couple weeks ago, we talked about the Pied Piper story, the Pied Piper of Hamelin. And I asked people, I said, this is a Mandela moment. I remember the title of the story being something completely different. If you guys remember the story, tell me what you remember the title as. And the first round we got was a bunch of people telling me, well, I remember the story going this way. And they weren't really answering the question that I posed. So we posed it again last week. What is the actual title you remember? The Pied Piper of. And I got to tell you, yes, the Pied Piper of Rocktown, apparently.
Wow.
The Pied Piper story of Hamelin, that's at least close to what I recall the title being.
Okay.
And then it was strange because I got people like, I remember it as the Pied Piper of Rathenberg. I remember it as the Pied Piper of things that are nothing even close to Hamelin.
Okay.
But each one of those are one-offs. I didn't get anybody else that said, oh, I remember it as the Pied Piper of Rathenberg. And nobody else would like double up on that answer.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say once I pull those out of the mix and look at it, it's a pretty even split of emails that I got that remember it as the Pied Piper of Hamelin, as Nick Redford mentioned it on our radio show Friday a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
I remember it as the Pied Piper of Hamlet. And more than half of my listening audience remembers it as the Pied Piper of Hamlet as well. So that's it. And when I Google the Pied Piper of Hamlet, there's no reference to it at all. It all reverts back to the Pied Piper of Hamelin. Now, that doesn't mean, and this was brought to my attention, it doesn't mean that it's a true Mandela moment. It could be the fact that you and I grew up on cartoons.
Right.
And there may have been a Woody Woodpecker or a Bugs Bunny or some kind of cartoon like that spoofed the Pied Piper of Hamelin and called it the Pied Piper of Hamlet. And I may have been overexposed to that, and that may be why I remember it that way.
True.
And that makes more sense to me, I guess. But it's interesting that, again, it was a pretty even split. People remembering it the Pied Piper of Hamelin, Pied Piper of Hamlet. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Weigh in, email me about this topic. And do you think it could just be misremembered and it might be a cartoon? And I'm sure we've got our diligent audiences already quickly Googling, looking for a cartoon called the Pied Piper of Hamlet. But I will let you know, I couldn't find it when I was trying to look it up myself. But I'm sure somebody's going to find it to help me out on this. But what do you think this is? What do you think the Mandela effect really is? I'm starting to lean more towards it really just being mismemories. Mm-hmm. Of certain things. But there are other points that are just like, God, that is just, I remember that. I remember it so clearly. But that, again, shows you just how fallible human memory could be.
Oh, sure. Sure.
So that's it. All right. Well, I covered those 2 points of business. Sorry. Let's get back to the point at hand here. Where are we off to next?
Nostradamus' 2018 predictions, Dave, as timely as the headlines are.
Yes. What's going on?
Evidently, he's like Tupac. He keeps coming back with new stuff every year, even though he's dead. Yeah. World War III, Dave. That's what we're talking about. And disaster. But the survivors could live up to 200 years old. So, there's that. Just saying.
Well, there's that.
Yeah. Nostradamus predictions for 2018 are in, kids. I know you thought he was dead years and years and years ago, but no. They have foretold one of the worst years in global history. You thought things were rosy the last couple of years. With a string of natural disasters, the fall of the economy, and the start of World War III. French prophet Nostradamus, who never turned down a glass of wine in his life, is believed to, by some, have accurately predicted the rise of Napoleon and Hitler and the 9/11 Twin Tower attacks.
And the Beatles, the Coke and Pepsi wars. I believe that's even part of his quatrains.
The East Coast, West Coast rap wars, I believe that was him. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Many researchers of the infamous prophet who died in 1566 are also convinced he has correctly foretold the current barbaric acts being committed by ISIS in the Middle East, including its bid to capture areas of Europe to fulfill its caliphate. Now people are looking at what his writings could foretell about 2018. Alessandro Bruno wrote on LombardiLetter.com, the Nostradamus predictions for 2018 are dire, as they include what might become World War III. Go ahead and throw in the dun, dun, dun if you want.
Oh, wait, wrong musical cue.
Yeah, that's okay. But, although we may need it by the end of the story. It says here the Nostradamus World War III predictions have gained traction because so many people feel helpless. They sense that the world is beyond their control, and they feel that difficult times are ahead. Beyond the individual Nostradamus future predictions, 2018, there's a common theme. Negative energy will intensify and accelerate with unprecedented intensity and speed. World War III news has become current again. That's because most people are ignoring the fact that Russia and the United States have resumed a level of tension not seen since almost 30 years ago. Instead of diffusing it, senators and congressional representatives in Washington are fueling the risks. Here are the 2018 predictions in a nutshell. Number one is your World War III, kids. We're just going straight to the top. The most chilling prediction for 2018 is from Nostradamus' book Les Prophéties.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I think that's the sequel to Les Mis.
It is, yes, and it's very moving. And includes a quatrain that some have interpreted as describing the start of the Third World War. Nostradamus said, "The big war will start in France, and all Europe will be attacked. It will be long and terrifying for everyone, and then finally there will be peace, but only a few will enjoy it. A war will start between two great world powers, and it will last for a period of 27 years. Some commentators have predicted China, Russia, and North Korea will unite to take on the United States, and not in an Olympic Games, funny enough, Dave."
Wow.
Yeah. Major eruption of Mount Vesuvius is the second one. The Italian volcano will shake the earth every 5 minutes, and at least 6,000 people will be killed, according to the prophecy. In early 2016, more than 1.5 million people were warned that they were living in the danger zone of the supervolcano, which it was said could go off at any time, causing a global catastrophe. Half of the 3 million people living in Naples were told they were living within a new yellow danger zone of the Vesuvius supervolcano, the infamous peak which was responsible for the historic destruction of Pompeii in 79 A.D. It's been a while since that thing's gone off, but hey, there's a first time for everything. 3, a terrible earthquake. Nostradamus appears to have predicted natural disaster across the United States. He wrote, "An earthquake shall concern particularly the western area of the United States. Its power shall be felt in lands throughout the globe." Worryingly, the United States Geological Service carefully monitors seismic activity in the Cascadia subduction zone, not the seduction zone, Dave, but the subduction zone, where there were a series of medium tremors in 2016 and 2 fault lines in California, including San Andreas. Scientists say both the California fault lines and the Cascadia subduction zone are long overdue for a major earthquake of a magnitude of 8 or above. They have revealed the Cascadia subduction zone is of most concern there. It runs about 60 miles offshore along the Pacific coast from Northern California to Vancouver Island, so major cities including Portland, Seattle, and Vancouver are within its tsunami range, threatening millions of people and major infrastructure. The fourth one is a comet or asteroid strike. This one's kind of terrifying as well. A major asteroid strike is expected, as Nostradamus has been interpreted as saying for 2018. A moment of great violence will coincide with appearance of a comet in the sky, a nuclear terrorism, and natural catastrophes will destroy our planet. While it is accepted an asteroid or comet will one day threaten Earth, NASA says it knows of no major one that threatens as at least for 100 years. Economic collapse is number 5. Nostradamus said the rich will die many times over.
Well, wait a minute. See, the last thing, NASA says this. Well, first of all, again, would they tell us? That's the big question. Would they tell us? if they saw one and they know it's coming towards us? Or would they just work diligently behind the scenes trying to figure out a way to blow it off course?
I think they would, but
it
would be a little too late to do anything at that point when they'd tell us.
Right, I agree. It's going to be like one of those, hey, see that spot in the sky? We got about 30 hours. I think that's what would happen.
Yeah.
I don't think they would tell us if they knew that it was coming. Plus, look at how many times we've been surprised. There's been some amateur astronomers, sky watchers, that have noticed things that that came much closer to Earth than they expected. So I don't know that they've got all the answers. Although it'd be interesting to go back and look at like 2016 and go through Nostradamus's quote unquote predictions and see how many things might fit with that year. Are people really only looking at this because Trump's in office and because of what's going on? Are they trying to shape some of the questionable predictions that Nostradamus made and mush them into this because of our kind of the tumultuous times we're living in right now?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Number 5, the economic collapse. Like Nostradamus said, the rich would die many times over. This is taken to mean that the global economic collapse will happen as a result of World War III and the effects of many other natural disasters. Number 6, humans will live to be over 200 years old. With so much doom and gloom predicted, this seems as an unlikely one, according to the article. However, Nostradamus predicted the advancements of medicine will raise humans' life expectancy up to at least 200 years of age. It has been interpreted as meaning towards the end of 2018, an 80-year-old person will resemble a 50-year-old. Oh, God, I wish. Other predictions of 2018 include humans will be able to speak to animals. People who want to have children will require a license or permit. Yeah, right. Language difference.
I think that makes sense.
It does make sense, but this world doesn't make
I don't know
much
that it
sense.
should be like China where we're limited to one child. It's China, right? Isn't it China that does that?
Yeah, it's China.
And then you have to be able to pay for more, which maybe that's the point. If you can afford to pay for a second child, then you can have one. And I don't mean to sound like a jerk, and I know I'm going to get a lot of hate mail for that, but it might get to that point where we just have to curtail how people are doing this for many reasons. First of all, if there is severe mental illness involved or people just cheating systems, we have to look at that. And, I don't think that and I'm one of the parents included in on this, Tim. I think people need to really take true parenting classes, not like 4 weeks before the baby comes of how to swaddle a baby and how to feed and burp a baby. But, I think more people should really be set up for what it is like to become a parent. To become a parent, because I think there's a lot of people that are ill prepared. I'm one of them.
Yeah.
But what I was saying, we probably could have all dealt with a lot more training other than what our parents gave us.
Yeah, true. No,
right?
You're right. You're right.
Yeah. Might not be a bad idea.
Other predictions include language differences disappearing, wildfires from global warming, but on the plus side, there will be an end to taxes in the West. That's what it says according to the quatrains.
The Wild West?
No, talking about here in the West.
That's what I'm saying, the Wild West?
However, according to ancientcode.com, which looks at such prophecies, the interpretations have to be taken with a pinch of salt, as similar ones were made for 2017. In the article, it says, but what does Nostradamus say about 2018? Nostradamus' quatrains describe a level of destruction more gruesome than anything he had predicted earlier. According to the reports, Nostradamus saw terrible events happening in 2018, although similar things were said about 2017. Consider these predictions with caution, but many of these warnings, with a few detailed changes, could certainly apply to the modern world. For the skeptics, among whom I include myself, he's quoted as saying, there are doubtless some ominous-sounding Nostradamus predictions from the past to generate concerns. Skeptics also point out that there have been many earlier interpretations of other Nostradamus quatrains which said World War III would begin around 1999. This problem with dates has also led some Nostradamus researchers to conclude that we already are in a World War III, which somehow started in 1999 and should therefore come to some sort of horrific conclusion, probably involving nuclear weapons in 2026 after the 27 years ends. Nostradamus is also claimed by some to have correctly predicted the Twin Towers attacks of 9/11 with the line, The year 1999, 7 months from the sky, will come the great king of terror, prompting bin Laden's brief holder of the third Antichrist title, but it was actually around 2 years out. Skeptics of Nostradamus point out that at least 50% of his premonitions were so way off that even the diehard researchers leave them alone. And of the 50% that he is said to have got right, there are many that believe the vague terminology used by the French prophet and so-called Nostradamus codes need a strong dose of hindsight and imagination to prove the prophecy after the event. One online researcher wrote, by using the same techniques as those who find miracles in the Quran or Bible, researchers have done the exact same thing with Nostradamus. To be clear, I don't believe such nonsense, since all he did was write a whole bunch of cryptic things and then let the reader use their imagination to interpret verses to suit their own beliefs. That's the quote. Also another quote, the verses can only be understood once the event has already happened, such as hindsight. So there you go.
Yeah, I don't know about the whole Nostradamus thing. I know there's a lot of people. Wasn't it, I think that was like one of the last big Orson Welles documentaries I remember. Nostradamus. Remember, he did that whole deal, and it was scaring the hell out of everybody because of Himmler and Hitler and all of that, and he was so dead on with so many of those quatrains.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. Going forward, I just haven't seen a whole lot of stuff that I thought was pretty impressive. And I bet if I started writing a bunch of predictions right now and somebody opened that book up 100 years from now, they could go through it and find that I was probably close to being right on a lot of things.
Mm-hmm. Oh, sure.
Or they could push it into it.
You could even, and we've done it in the past on the show, you could even sit down at the end of a year. You could make 10 predictions, and you can probably hit on, let's say, 20% maximum.
Yeah.
And be somewhat accurate on those predictions. Just pick them out of the sky. And if you make them vague enough or general enough, you'll hit them.
All right. What's our next story, sir?
Well, UFO phobics can sleep easy. Your alien attack is unlikely, that according to the government. And the government's always right, Dave. So I'm going to sleep easy. I'm just going to take an extra sleeping pill tonight and relax. The government may be making contingency plans to deal with a possible ballistic missile attack by North Korea, but it is confirmed that Japan has one less flying national security threat to worry about, and that's UFOs. Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's cabinet on February 27th approved an official response about the threat from unidentified flying objects that said their existence has not been confirmed and we have not made any particular consideration of how to respond should one fly into Japan. So Japan's unprepared.
Wasn't it like 4 or 5 years ago where the airspace over Japan's airport was shut down 2 or 3 times like in 1 year?
Yeah. Yeah, that was.
I thought that was Japan, right?
Yeah, actually, I thought it was more like 4 or 5 years ago. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Well, of course, what are they going to come out and say again, right?
Right. Yeah.
I don't know.
Prime Minister Shinzo. I already read that part. The response was made to questions raised by Seiji Osaka, a lower house member of the opposition Constitutional Democratic Party of Japan. Osaka pointed to a recent article in the New York Times about a secret study on UFOs conducted by the U.S. Defense Department between 2007 and 2012. He wanted to know if a UFO attack would be considered an armed attack situation in which Japan was directly attacked militarily, or a survival-threatening situation defined under national security laws as warranting the exercise of the right to collective self-defense. This was not the first time the government was officially addressed on the issue of UFOs. In 2007, the cabinet approved a similar response that said the existence of UFOs had not been confirmed. However, at a news conference at that time, Chief Cabinet Secretary Nobutaka Machimura said the official said the official response from the government is extremely stereotypical. I personally believe UFOs definitely exist. So there you go.
Dun, dun, dun.
That according to Chief Cabinet Secretary Nobutaka Machimura. I'll tell you, Dave, I have been studying up on my New Japan Wrestling because a lot of them are going to be on the cruise with us on Chris Jericho's Rockin' Wrestling Rager.
Rockin' Wrestling Rager.
So I myself now can automatically just boom, Nobutaku Machimura. Like that. Huh?
Did you dislocate your uvula?
You know what? I think I pulled a testicle at that point. I did.
Right.
But
where are we off to next?
We move on. We're going to connect a couple of celebrated cryptids, and actually one celebrated cryptid and one celebrated phenomenon, and we're going to put them on new British coins, Dave. Nessie and Stonehenge are going to be put... Nessie and Stonehenge, Dave!
Holy cow!
Are going to be put on new British coins. Because evidently the British Royal Mint has the British Royal Mint has run out of things to put on coins. A pair of paranormal fixtures are being honored in a new way, or by way of new coins issued by the British Royal Mint. 10-pence pieces featuring both the famed cryptid Nessie as well as legendary esoteric site Stonehenge are part of a collection celebrating quintessentially British icons ranging from A to Z. Evidently, Nessie and Stonehenge. They needed something for N and S.
Hey, that's cool. You know what, though? It's good. You pump out these coins. They're not real spendable coins. I mean, they are legal tender, but the value of the metal that they're striking them on will be more than the value of the coin itself. Mm-hmm. So it's a good way to help the economy. You pump out all this money that nobody's ever going to turn in because the value of the money is offset by the value of the precious metal.
True. Much like the series of American quarters depicting each of the 50 states, which were issued a few years back in the States, like Dave said, the 26 British coins are geared toward collectors who will want to own them all, just like Pokemon. I don't know. Fortunately for those who are not... Are they numismatists, Dave?
Numismatists.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. The coins have also been entered into general circulation as of today, meaning that shoppers in the UK just might find a Nessie or Stonehenge coin in their spare change soon. Hmm?
No kidding. See, I thought this was the Royal Mint that does all of those commemorative coins, not the actual Royal Mint. So they're actually, that's pretty cool then. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. All right, so listen, my British friends and followers. I want a Stonehenge coin, and I want an Oompa Loompa, and I want it now. Wait, sorry. I started to channel my inner Willy Wonka. I would love one of those Nessie coins and one of those Stonehenge coins. Contact me, dave@darknessradio.com. Tell me what it's going to take to get you to send those to me. If I got to send you a copy of my book, well, I'll do it. If you can send me out a couple of those coins, I'd like to have them for my collection. I have some different coins from around the world that have Bigfoot on it and Nessie and a couple other cryptid creatures that have appeared from time to time. So I'd love to collect more of them.
There you go.
Yeah. All right. That's cool news. All right. Yeah. Where else are we going to go?
We'll go to Palawan, Dave. I believe that was a Van Halen song back in the 80s. Palawan.
No. That's the guy that Rocky beat.
That's the guy that Rocky beat?
Yeah. Palawan Creed, I think.
Oh, yeah. He ended up dying, didn't he? But James Brown came out and sang Living in America to bring him out to the ring.
Which was ironic, don't you think?
It was.
Living in America and then he dies?
Yeah. That was sad.
I feel good.
Knock me out! That was the last thing he said before he died, actually. You remember that at the end of the song? He goes, knock me out! And sure enough, he did. Poor Palawan.
Yeah.
15 I'm going to cry now.
No, 15, just get back on it. Okay. Let's go.
15 students at a school in Palawan were dismissed early on Thursday after they were rushed to a Catholic church to drive away the evil spirit that possessed them in the middle of their class. Hunfred Kalamba reported Friday morning. I don't know if you know Hunfred Kalamba. I know Hunfred Kalamba.
Yeah, I love that show. My dad used to watch it with Peter Falk, the detective in the rumpled jacket.
With the eye. Yeah. You don't know nothing about Hunfred Kalamba. I can't.
What the hell was that?
I don't know what that was.
Why are you channeling your inner mafia boss?
That was my trucker voice. Quoting school principal Vicente Tamayano. This is a different country, Dave. If this were Japan, I'd be nailing this. Mm-hmm. So to speak. I'm big with the Japanese. Columba's told...
We're all big with the Japanese.
Well...
the very little people. That is a fact. And I'm Bill Curtis.
If you do the Godzilla jokes now, I'm going to lose it. All right. So Columba told Double B Saw News TV, which is big on my cable package, that only 2 students behaved erratically at first, claiming they saw the spirit of a bloodied woman. More students began exhibiting strange behavior after the 2, including...
I like how that guy comes forward. He's like, hey, let's not overblow the story. Only 2 people saw an imaginary bloody woman.
That's right. So, calm down, everybody.
Right.
More students began exhibiting strange behavior after the 2, including the principal's son, were rushed to a church for prayers. Don't have the medical personnel look after him at all.
No.
Adults were disturbed by the children's claims of the spirit wanting to get close to them. The strange language, the students spoke, and the freakish strength they exhibited while being possessed, I guess, were reasons why they wanted to get close to him. Because school officials and priests must obtain their parents' permission before tranquilizers could be distributed, officials decided to send the students home. All classes were dismissed to protect students from the supposed evil spirit. So that's all it takes, Dave. Here in Minnesota, it's just the threat of freezing rain and snow. In this country, it's evil spirits.
Yeah, there's that. All right, where are we off to next?
Let's see. We go to the Vatican, Dave.
Really? I don't think I'm dressed for the Vatican, but go ahead.
Isn't that the Vatican theme?
No, that's not it at all. I believe it's just sit right back and you'll hear a tale of a fateful trip. Isn't that the Vatican's official theme song?
Yes, it is. The Vatican is training more exorcists with reports of demonic possession soaring. The Pope said, the evil is out of control, I tell you.
He's not Italian, Tim. I think isn't this one, what is this one, Spanish, right?
He's from Venezuela or South America, Dave. But
isn't that kind of Spanishy?
It is. But here's the deal:
is Spanishy a thing?
No, it's Spanishy. But here's the deal, Dave. It's like Kentucky. You pick up the accent when you get there. It's like they give you when you show up at the Vatican, they give you
he goes from this. Hello, everybody. I'm the new Pope. Thank you. It's great to be here. Hey, how's everybody doing?
That's exactly what happens.
This is the night, a most beautiful night, and they call it the Belle Notte. Hey, I'm the Pope now. Hey,
they give you when you show up as Pope, they give you the big Pope hat, they give you the Pope mobile, they give you a loaf of Italian bread, they give you a jar of Prego and some Prince spaghetti, and they say, now you're off and running.
I could be wrong on this, but I think you might be sorely mistaken.
No. I think I got this down.
No, I'm pretty sure.
I studied Pope 101 in Catholic.
Did you?
Catholic
Pope 101?
Yeah. Yep.
Interesting. Okay.
The Vatican has reportedly set up a new exorcism training course. Oh, this is like boot camp for the Marines.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Amid soaring demands for priests trained to rid people of demonic possession, Sicilian priest and trained exorcist Benigno Paglia, Dave, it just sounds like he's being goosed. Oh my! Told Vatican Radio that demand.
The Vatican's going to send out a hit on us. We're going to get whacked by the Pope.
The Pope's going to go. That's not so good. That the Dennis character. He's a bad news. Yeah.
Who's a laughing now, fat boy? He's going to have us tied to chairs with a little Steelers wheel going on in the background. Stuck in the middle with you.
I'm going to shoot a salama right up his keister.
What? My God, now you've taken the Pope too far.
Well, like
which is what we should now refer to anal sex as taking the Pope too far. Oh, God, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I take it back. Lord, forgive me. Take out your punishment only on Tim.
Come on. Even God right now is doubled over in laughter. Taking the Pope too far. He's wafers deep, folks. Okay.
Just go.
All right.
So this story I've lost control of. Basically, the Vatican is going to be teaching more about exorcism.
Demand for priests trained in exorcism has tripled over in recent years, with 500,000 alleged cases now recorded in Italy annually. Evidently, that's where all the demons are. and the bathhouses. Hello. He attributed the rise to the popularity of fortune tellers and tarot cards, which he said opened the door to the devil into possession. Oh, yeah, that's what it is. He, however, noted that many cases of apparent possession were in fact caused by spiritual or psychological problems. Paella expressed concern at inexperienced priests conducting exorcisms. A self-taught exorcist certainly meets errors, he said. I will say more. It would also take a period of apprenticeship, as happens for many professionals. A week-long international course on exorcism will be held in April at the Pontifical Athenaeum Regina. There's no Regina anywhere in the Vatican. Apostolorum, a Catholic educational establishment in Rome. Paella said the gathering's goal was to offer a rich reflection and articulation on a topic that is sometimes unspoken and controversial. In 2014, the Vatican gave official backing to the International Association of Exorcists, making exorcism a recognized practice under canon law. The association emerged from a group founded by the Vatican's former chief exorcist, Father Gabriel Amorth, and has around 200 members on 6 continents. Though officially recognized, exorcisms can only be conducted after approval from senior priests. So there you go.
All right, where is our next destination?
Our next destination has to do with John Krasinski on a horror movie, Dave.
Man, yeah, I've seen the commercial for this. This looks like it could be really interesting. I'm fascinated to hear more about it. What's going on? It
says something about the movie A Quiet Place. The idea really triggered something inside of me, is what it says here.
Have you seen the commercial for this yet? Quiet Place?
I have not. What's the
I don't know really what's going on. I mean, it gives you that feel that it's I'm guessing like alien in nature or something is stalking that you have to be silent. So the entire advert for the show is very quiet, and it shows them like moving about their house softly, quietly doing things. And hand signs, sign language, I think they call it in the New World, to one another to communicate. And if it says you have to be quiet because if they hear you, they can find you, they can track you. And like somebody knocks something down and just all hell breaks loose. So it's some kind of paranormal force that begins hunting them down and stalking them. And it looks great. I mean, it looks like a really creepy movie. And when you can convey a story without much in the way of spoken word, I think that's really powerful, too, and it amps up that creep factor. Father of 2, John Krasinski said he's inspired by parenthood in his decision to team up with his wife, Emily Blunt, who's in this movie with him, into doing his latest horror movie, A Quiet Place. In an interview with Playboy, that's a magazine, Tim, I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, very prestigious.
No, never heard of it.
Yeah, for the March-April issue, Jim Halpert's alter ego confessed that the movie's genre is completely opposite of his usual repertoire. However, his experience pushed him to try something that he could relate to as a parent. We just had our second daughter, and, I'm super sensitive, emotional person, so I think I was probably wide open when I read the script, Krasinski said. The idea really triggered something inside me about protection and parenting. And I just thought maybe I could make it a metaphor for parenthood, he added. See, I don't want to know about metaphors. Don't tell me about metaphors. Just tell me about creepiness. That's all I want to know. A Quiet Place is not the traditional genre, as it uses silence as its primary medium of horror. In the movie, Krasinski's character lives in an isolated house haunted by paranormal forces. No one in his family could make any sound, even talk to each other, or they'll be hunted. See, now that sounds creepy to me. There was something so beautiful about putting a family in a situation where, without giving too much away, this is the one family in the world that needs to talk but can't, Krasinski said as he described the plot. The 38-year-old Office star said he was inspired to do the film after seeing Jordan Peele's Get Out and another of the same genre, Don't Breathe. Krasinski said that his most recent thriller used silence to inflict the idea of terror, which delves away from the typical camera tricks used in other films. A Quiet Place is another spine-chilling thriller produced by Paramount Pictures, which tells the story of a family of 4 who's hunted by paranormal forces detecting sounds. It's going to be interesting, too, because you would think, okay, if they're living there, where are they are they leaving to go get groceries? Can they talk outside? How are they getting their food? Are the ghosts feeding them to keep them alive. It'll be interesting to see how this thing plays out. But the commercials for it look really creepy. It's just one of those kind of where you feel like you got that breath caught in your throat through the whole commercial.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So A Quiet Place. I don't know when it's coming out, but I want to see that. So, that looks like a good one. All right. What's our next story?
Well, we continue on with entertainment. We talk about Veronica. The question is Veronica the new Netflix horror movie or a true story? Is Netflix new horror movie based on actual events? They took a look at the original police report behind Veronica, which is a scary new Spanish ghost movie. Veronica, the new horror movie from Spanish director Paco Plaza. Oh, we have that here in Minnesota. It's a shopping mall. Best known for 2007's zombie horror, REC, and its sequels. Unceremoniously dropped on Netflix Monday and opens with an emergency call and ends with a police report. On-screen text asserts specific addresses, times, dates, even naming the police station in Madrid that took the call. Crime scene photographs accompany the credits. This story is based on the police report filed by the detective in charge of the case, is what was read. It's 3 days earlier than the emergency Veronica opens on, a typical school day. Veronica, played by Sandra Escacina, wakes up her younger twin sisters and younger brother to get them ready for school. Her mom works long, late hours at a nearby diner and sleeps in. That day at school, there's an eclipse, and piggybacking off the ritual power of the sun's occlusion, Veronica uses a Ouija board to reach out to her dead father. Unfortunately, something else comes through, something closer to a demon. It follows her home and drapes its long lizard-like shadow over the children that have become her responsibility. Fast forward to 3 days later, June 15th, 1991, Detective Jose Ramon Romero went to the home on 8 Gerardo Nunez Street in response to a emergency call. That's the movie version, however. But what's the true story behind Veronica? Well, the police report is real. Scans are available online with a glut of write-ups around the 20th anniversary of what came to be known as the Velázquez case by Spanish-language paranormal sites. The case takes its name from the Madrid neighborhood where a young woman, Estefania Gutierrez Lazaro, rather than Veronica, reportedly performed a seance at school. A nun broke her Ouija board, ending or interrupting the ritual. She later experienced months of seizures and hallucinations, particularly of shadows and presences around her. And just like at the end of Veronica, Estefania died, but not at home battling a demon. Instead, she died in a Madrid hospital in August of 1991. But the police report doesn't really have much to do with her, though the details of her possession, including more lurid, unverifiable claims like she had inhaled a paranormal vapor from the shattered pieces of the glass Ouija planchet, are widely asserted. Estefania's family didn't get the police involved until more than a year after her death, though later ghost encounters would receive the report of multiple witnesses and the police. The actual basis for the plot of Veronica is a little more than just an anecdote. A year after her death, the police visited Estefania's family's home and reported hearing a loud noise coming from an empty porch. The door of a perfectly closed armoire opened in a suddenly and totally unnatural way. A crucified Jesus separated his cross, and a large brown stain attributed to drool. But though the facts of the case aren't quite as spectacular as the events in Veronica, the police report contains evocative descriptions, calling it a situation of mystery and rarity, that they were witnessed by 3 officers and the chief inspector of the National Police, Jose Pedro Negri, goes a long way in explaining why the Velázquez case continues to enjoy so much attention in Spain, including in television specials. It's somewhat akin to the pop culture durability of the Enfield Poltergeist case in England or the Amityville Horror case here in the United States, both sites visited by ghost hunting artists. I won't say that it says con artists here in the article, but we won't go that far. Especially now that the Velázquez case has a movie of its own. And it just says that during an audience Q&A at the Toronto International Film Festival, Plaza explained how he felt free to invent his own story around this and didn't really see it as anyway a documentary, an accurate account of that actual case.
So it's, again, just one of those loosely based on actual events.
Yep.
That's cool. That's it. We have to take a quick break. We'll come back. We've got your ParaShare stories next on Beyond the Darkness.
Beyond the Darkness.
Hey, welcome back to the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Beyond the Darkness. I'm your host, Dave Schrader. Along with me, the very lovely and talented Mr. Tim Dennis. All right, Tim, it's time to get into a little ParaShare. We've got some stories. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
All right, let's see what we've got going here. Dave, I wanted to write you and tell you that, yes, Shades of Death Road is very real. Remember, we talked about this, I think it was last week's show, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The lights seen by the writer have been discussed as belonging to old black pickup truck. I had been there several times as a youth back in 1996. We used to do the weird New Jersey trips as well. The editors' names are Mark Moran and Mark Skirman. They have produced their product for almost all the states in the book series. With that said, I am now a resident of the Midwest. However, I grew up in my home state of New Jersey, and yes, I have gone on Jersey Devil trips and have had the crap scared out of me. However, my trips to Shades never really seemed to produce anything that was written about. There is an overabundance of creepy to it, yes. The ghost lights, however, are also associated with the devil's tree. Thus I've had the lights chase us for a long distance. The lore is that the tree is a portal to hell. No snow seems to land on it, and locals have a healthy respect and fear of it. The night that me and my friends went out there goes as follows. We had just left Annie's Road as well as Midgetville, okay, when we decided to go out to this last site. I was probably around 9 or 10 p.m. When we located the correct roads, we were a full van full of idiots laughing, smoking, and talking about dumb things. When we reached the clearing, I assure you, the big badasses we thought we were went out the window like a cigarette butt. We parked and stared, none of us wanting to get out of the car. I, of course, was the only one with the guts to actually step foot out of the car. I made it about halfway to the tree when the lights started to appear. I jumped back in and screamed like the biggest girl in the car and told them to go. We drove around it when the old Ford started to give chase. I know that the lights stayed on our tail end because I was in the back staring straight at them. Unbelievably, I couldn't see a driver or much past the lights and barely make out the shape of the truck. It was right behind us most of the trip back to the main road. I looked at the driver and yelled to go faster and snapped my head back, and nothing. The lights were gone. In a split second, the lights and the truck disappeared. I don't mind telling you that our toughness came back quickly as we wanted to go back and try it again, until we looked at the clock and realized that our parents might get pissed at the time. There are a lot of great places in Jersey. I'm a firm believer in good old JD and all things weird. I think that's the Jersey Devil. Oh. I hope that this finds you well, and please give Tim our love and wishes of a healthy, speedy recovery. You two are what keep me laughing all day and night in my truck, and that's from Chuck. So wait a minute. I thought he started off here saying that, let me see. With that, I said a resident Midwest. However, I grew up in the home city. I said a Jersey Devil. It scared the crap out of me. However, my trips to the Shades never really seemed to produce anything that was written about. So he says in one breath that his visits out there had experiences that weren't like anything that was written about. And then he goes on to tell us an experience that's exactly like what people say happened. No. I'm a little confused, Chuck. A little confused. Little confused, but it's your story. Thank you for sharing it. We appreciate that. Hey, Dave, I'm emailing you to answer your question about the Pied Piper story and to tell you about an experience that I had when I was around 5 years old. Hopefully it will be read. First of all, I remember the story as the Pied Piper of Hamelin, as that is what it was called in the fairy tales book that I had when I was young. Now, on to my paranormal experience. When I was about 5 years old, my mother caught a bad stomach bug. Not wanting to give it to me, she slept out on the couch in our living room. One night, I woke up in the middle of the night and snuck out into the living room so I could be near my mother. Then we had a sectional, and it was shaped like a U. We had an ottoman in the center. I laid down in front of the ottoman, facing a TV that was across the room. The TV was on a stand, which had a CD player on it. The player had a glowing green clock on it. I laid there for at least 30 minutes, but for some reason could not fall asleep. All of a sudden, I saw what looked like the bottom of a pair of legs from the foot to about the knee go walking by the TV. And right behind it was what looked like a small Scottish terrier. They looked whitish blue in color, and they looked kind of foggy. Being only 5 years old, it scared the crap out of me, and I ran back into bed, dove under the sheets, and eventually fell back asleep. When I told my mother about it the next day, she thought that I had been dreaming and did not really believe me, but I'm sure that I saw what I saw and that I was fully awake. I never expected or experienced anything like that again. Although I have seen shadow people and have sensed some things, well, that's my story. Thanks in advance if you decide to use this. Love you and Tim, and keep up the good work. P.S. I have one or two stories that my family members have told me, and one is quite creepy, but I'll save them for next time.
Oh,
P.P.S. If you would do this, I will be listening, so if you would like to hear them, I will gladly send them to you. Have a good day. William from St. Augustine, Florida. William, why do you people want us to beg you for these stories?
We're not going to beg.
Of course. We want to hear the stories. Don't make us beg you for them. Just send them, William. Stop being a paranormal tease, son. All right.
We'll send the Vatican after you.
Yeah, that's all right. We're going to put out a whack on you.
We're going to drop a Pope on you, son.
That's right. Good evening, gents. I was reminded of a couple of stories tonight while listening to you idiots. You guys.
What?
So I thought I would share. Yeah, you probably saw my email and thought, oh, great, this chick again. And this comes from Erie, Colorado. Deb, are you ready? My first story happened a lot of years ago. That's a lot, Tim. A lot of years ago. Oh, back when our parents had to trust in us to not get up to shenanigans because there were no cell phones long ago. Speaking of shenanigans, I was about 18 and my friends and I decided to go for a drive. Back then, there was a lot of nothing between Denver and Boulder, so this route was a great one to drive and find shenanigan-worthy areas. The particular evening, we took the Erie exit off of I-36 and started on the long, dark, tree-lined road into town. As we drove, the night seemed to get darker, and the normal night sounds stopped. As you're all well aware, there is such a thing as too quiet. No, Tim? Being a father of a gajillion children, I just don't know what the term too quiet means.
No.
I got to be honest with you.
No.
Being the geniuses that we were at 18, we stopped the car and got out to look around. As we walked, it got darker and felt weirdly heavy. Even the headlights in the car seemed to have dimmed, and the light was kind of absorbed by the surrounding darkness, as was all sound. Mind you, we were only a few dozen feet from the car, but the light didn't help, and we couldn't even hear the car engine. A 1970 GTO. We should have heard that. We started hearing animal sounds, scurrying, bird calls, etc. But they were somehow wrong. Just really wrong. Our teenage bravado quickly waned, and we started to walk slower, our flashlights barely cutting the darkness that now seemed to have a physical presence, thick and black like fabric. Caw! That's what it says here, Tim. Caw!
A vulture?
We heard another one of those strange birds, so we stopped and huddled together like the frightened kids we were. We shone our lights up into the trees, lining either side of the lonely road. There were no birds in sight. However, there were children. At least 30 were watching us from up in the trees, watching us walking down the road. Their eyes glowed as our lights passed over them. They scurried, made their animal noises, and mostly watched us, cowering. Worse, they seemed to be laughing at us in their weird, creepy way. All at once, our little group snapped out of our trance, and we ran. We ran as fast as we could back to the car, serious noping back to the FUC Thatville. See, they're getting back to the, getting out of that area, Tim, is what they're trying to convey in the story.
Oh, yes, yeah.
I have no idea what those kids were, but they were most definitely not human. We made it back to the car, floored it back to town, where we stopped at our favorite coffee house to compare notes. Although there wasn't much talking, I think we were all too freaked out and confused. It's now 10 years later, and still none of us have any idea what those kids were. Well, that's it for now. I'm sure I'll darken your email again as I remember more stories. Take care and good luck with whatever new things you guys have brewing. And that comes from Deb. Well, it was the Lost Boys from Peter Pan story, Tim.
Oh, yeah.
Remember they were all dressed up as different animals?
Mm-hmm.
And the caw, I think that was just the crowing noise that they would make to one another.
Probably, yeah.
Caw, I think. Caw.
Caw. Even.
Yeah. All right. Hi, Dave and Tim. I love it when you're on Coast to Coast. Well, thank you. I'll be back on Coast to Coast, as a matter of fact, this Friday and Saturday night. So you guys check it out, coasttocoastam.com. That's coasttocoastam.com. And then click on the stations tab, and you'll be able to find stations and times in your area to join me. Tim and I will be there holding down the fort both Friday and Saturday night from KNSI Radio in St. Cloud, our coast-to-coast home. As a matter of fact, you can listen to it from anywhere in the United States by getting the KNSI Radio app or just going to knsiradio.com, and you can stream it live from their website. So you can continue to listen to the best in paranormal talk radio when we take over the best of overnight talk radio on Coast to Coast AM this Friday and Saturday. All right, I had a real-life experience with orbs. Way back in 1978 or so, it was dark, after dark, and I happened to look out the window of my third-floor apartment in Linwood, Washington. I noticed some movement below and saw what looked like glowing balls of light on an invisible string that were spiraling and moving about the lawn. This was the most amazing sight, and it chilled me so much that I quickly shut the curtains. It was as if the ghostly balls of light were a living creature, and I was afraid it would notice me and fly up through the window and do who knows what. I know this sounds crazy, but I wasn't drunk or high and was just getting ready to go to bed on a typical weeknight before going back to work the next day. It reminded me almost of a small animal playing around on the lawn, except that was flying just above the lawn and was made up of translucent, glowing balls of white light. I decided to open the curtains and take another look. I was certain this must have been my imagination. Upon pulling back the curtain and peeking cautiously out, I once again saw the glowing string of lights cavorting around and above the lawn. This really terrified me because I'd never seen anything like this before and have never seen it again. Back then, I had never heard of orbs or anything like it. I never spoke about what I'd seen for many years until I started hearing about orbs on Coast to Coast back when Art Bell was on the show. I have only mentioned this occurrence to my husband and a few family members because most people think I'm nuts. I'm positive of what I saw that night, but have no idea what it was. Now, I wish I could have been brave enough to go outside and investigate it, but I was alone at the time and too terrified. That comes from Carol Green. Very cool, Carol. That's an interesting one. See, now those are the kind of orbs that interest me. When you can see them with the naked eye,
yeah,
and they're flying about, and I just wonder how big they were.
Yeah. Yeah, very much
right?
so.
Because if you're, a lot of people that didn't grow up with fireflies are completely blown away by them when they see them.
Yeah.
But that's, those are just bugs. They're just bugs, Tim.
Just
All right, our
bugs.
final story. Hey, guys, I told Dave I would eventually get to sending my story, so here goes something. For me, things started to drastically change when I moved into my first home, shortly following my divorce. I've studied the paranormal for about 18 years, I would say. It started out as a hobby my dad and I shared, but as some things do, it became a slight obsession for me. I have always been curious about what comes after death, even as a child, so I've studied many different aspects of the paranormal, different spiritual beliefs and legends dating back hundreds of years ago. Once I'd moved into my new home and got settled, things felt a little weird here for me. I assumed it was because I've always lived with my family and I was newly single. I remember one day my son had gone to play with a friend, and I was home alone. I frequently read books versus watching TV, and that was what I was doing that day. I was sitting on my couch in the living room and reading when I started to notice that there was heavy breathing coming from down the hall. The important thing to remember is I was immersed in my book. I wasn't really focusing on what I was hearing. I remember thinking, God, Paul, my ex-husband, is breathing so loud, it's really freaking annoying. About the time my brain finished my thought, I suddenly remembered I was single. I was in the house alone. No one is here. As soon as these thoughts hit me like a ton of bricks, it went suddenly silent. I was pretty freaked out, but I walked through the house making sure nothing was out of the order, and I assumed I was losing my damn mind. I just made it up. I must be tired, right? Well, a few weeks later, I was on the phone with a friend. I pulled into the driveway, which is directly in front of my big bay kitchen windows. I had left the blinds open to let the sun in, and I had also left my living room light on. As I'm talking and not really paying close attention to anything, I realize my eyes are looking at the figure of a person standing in my living room, the black outline of a human shape. The light from the living room was behind them, so there were no features, just the perfect black outline of a human being. It took me a few moments to understand what I was looking at. Once it registered with me, I thought, who could be here? My parents have keys, but there aren't any cars but mine. My son isn't home. I end my conversation with my friend. I was so scared, but also angry. I grabbed a pocket knife that I always carry. I went to my front door thinking, if it's open, I'm calling the cops, because I never leave my doors open. I have my phone and the knife ready for the knob. It's locked. I grab my keys and quietly make my way into the house. I searched everywhere, but there wasn't anyone in the house. Now, I'm a pretty logical person, and I try to rule out all natural possibilities before jumping to conclusions, but there was no explaining this one away. I knew what I saw. I would swear with a lie detector hooked up to me because even though I didn't want to believe it, I knew I saw someone in my house. I was honestly scared. I called a close friend who came the following day. She and I saged and cleansed the house. I still sage my home at least once a month. I also use salt around my property for protection. Over the last couple years, things have been quiet. I've discovered that I am more attuned to things than I ever wanted to be. I suppose I got more than I bargained for with my incessant need for knowledge of the unknown. That's all for now. I'll write back soon. Tim, your jokes do not suck. I love you both and your show. Thanks for doing what you do. And that comes from Sarah.
Love you, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah. Yeah. Ass kiss. How much did you send her for that?
$100.
Okay, well, it was worth the purchase.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's it for today's show. We will be back again tomorrow, or not tomorrow, on Wednesday, rather. And we've got Tales from the Afterlife, Tim. We're going to be talking about animal incarnations of ghosts and paranormal aspects of those stories with Christy Robinette. She'll be joining us again on Wednesday, so we're looking forward to that. Tomorrow, True Crime Tuesday. So make sure you go subscribe to that if you have not already. True Crime Tuesday, the best in true crime talk radio. It is a lot of fun, and we're doing, not only do you get the best in true crime talk radio, but you also get a chance to hear what I like to talk about as possibly one of my favorite things, the dumb crimes and stupid criminals.
Oh, yes.
So we have that open, and we'd love for you guys to join us on that and check it out. And you can subscribe right now. It's only $5 a month, and that goes a long way to helping us on this show and for True Crime Tuesday. For $5 a month, you get access to all of our True Crime Tuesday shows. And you don't have to just listen on Tuesdays. You can listen any day of the week. And then you can go back and listen to the archives for the last year and a half here. What are we at, like 45 episodes or something like that of True Crime Tuesday now?
45 episodes. Tuesday will be number 46.
Excellent. Thank you so much for tuning into the best in paranormal talk radio. We'll be back Wednesday with another brand new episode of Beyond the Darkness.